How's it going, everybody? Hope you guys are doing good. So I was taking a glorious nap. My wife and I were watching Friends. I just had some chili. It was a rough day for the Yankees. They lost 14-0 to the Rays. I decided I didn't even want to do a recap. It wasn't even worth talking about. But my phone started blowing up. My watch started blowing up. Everything on me was freaking vibrating. And that means something's happening. So I pick everything up and I find out that Anthony Rizzo is being traded to the Yankees. This is a decent move, I think, for the Yankees. It's an interesting move on a lot of fronts. First of all, Anthony Rizzo is batting .248 with 14 home runs and 40 ribbies, so he's having a decent year. 792 OPS, 116 OPS plus in 2021. He is a first baseman. He's a classic left-handed hitter. He's a contact hitter for the most part. You know, don't worry about the .248 this year. He's got a good track record. I think coming to a pennant race might amp him up a little bit. I'm going to pull up his baseball savant statistics, and we're going to get a little bit more detail on Anthony Rizzo. No word yet on who the Yankees traded, but I do think this is also interesting because you got Luke Voit coming back any day now. And we had talked about possibly, including Luke Voit if the Yankees wanted to go out and get Trevor Story. I think it's interesting. This means to me that Luke Voit is probably on the trade block somehow. The Red Sox were in heavily for Anthony Rizzo, and it looks like they're not going to get him. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. So I'm going to put my camera back up here. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see that. We're looking at his baseball savant numbers. Let's see. It says Jack Curry says Alcantara and Vizcaino for Rizzo and $6 million. Hey, that works. That works. That still leaves you with the question, though. What do you do with Luke Voit? I don't think Anthony Rizzo is going to be a bench piece. You wouldn't carry him as a bench piece. Let's take a look at his numbers, though. Outs above average, 97th percentile. His average exit velocity, 82nd percentile. His max exit velocity, 92nd percentile. Hard hit percentage, 65th percentile. Only thing that's bad about him is his chase rate, 31%, and his sprint speed. He's slow, but we don't need him to be fast out of first base. Look at his spray chart. He hits a lot of singles to left center. Now you can see singles are red. So you see a lot of singles up here, a lot of singles where he beats the shift. When he hits the ball in the air, he tends to spread it around as well. We see everything from right down here. That's a home run at Yankee Stadium. All the way around the field, down the left field line. He's a good hitter. That's a good get for the Yankees. I mean, how many times can you be shut out in a season before you decide to improve the offense? Adding Joey Gallo and adding Anthony Rizzo over the past 24 hours makes a huge difference. Grayson Gaming says, if we got Rizzo, what happens to Voit? That is the $64 million question at this point. The Scatman says, does anyone know when Rizzo's contract expires? Anthony Rizzo is signed for a shade over $8 million this year, and his contract expires in the offseason, or in November when the season's over. So this is a rental. Yankees didn't give up too much. Alcantara and Vizcaino, couple of prospects, but you're not giving up a Volpe. You're not giving up an Oswald Peraza. You're not giving up a Luis Medina. You're not giving up a Luis Gil, and obviously not a Jason Dominguez. So these are all guys that you want to hold on to. So my initial reaction is that this is a decent trade for the Yankees. Anthony Rizzo is 31 years old. He's not over the hill. He's not having an outstanding season, but he's not having a bad year. He's 6'3", 240 pounds. He's a professional hitter. When you put a guy with that kind of leverage, that kind of ability in Yankee Stadium, he can do some real damage. He can do some real damage. Yo Elvis says Red Sox are mad. They shouldn't be too mad. They're in first place. Crackers and Cheese says goodbye Voit. You have to wonder what this means for Voit. You might want to stay tuned into MLB Network tonight, folks, because this means that Luke Voit is on the trade block. Either that or DJ LeMahieu. I don't think DJ is on the trade block. He's one of those guys you need. Contact. I mean, that great play last night. It was kind of scary play, but that roof is tough down there in Tampa, and he stuck with it, caught the pop-up to end the game. But I think this means Luke Voit is either hurt again, which is a possibility, or they're just moving him. I don't think they're going to get Anthony Rizzo to put him as a bench player. This also, I mean, it's highly unlikely, folks. Highly unlikely. But, I mean, if Stanton has agreed to something, that might be one of those out of left field moves that Cashman, is that just me hoping and wishing and praying? I think it is. I think it's wishful thinking on my part, but I'm thinking out loud. It's a it's a dream. It's a dream. We got a super chat here from Mike, the AC merch, who just replaced Cashman. So Cashman is trying to save his own job. Low Renzino says, Rizzo is a nice pickup for the Yanks. I like it. I like it too. I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Eric UY says, trade Andujar, Frazier, and have Stanton walk away. It's not as, you can't just have Stanton walk away. The guy is owed over $100 million. He's not going to retire. You can't release him because then you got to pay all that money. He still has a little bit of value. Not much, but he's got 16 home runs, I think. I mean, how many guys on this team have 16 home runs this year? I don't think Stanton's going anywhere. As Thomas Lambert says, that's just wishful thinking. Let's get back to Rizzo, because I do think this is a good deal. Detna says, do you think Rizzo can play tomorrow? Well, they just finished up a game in Wrigley. And apparently after the game, both Rizzo and Bryant kind of hung around the stadium to take one last look. I think they both knew from their general manager that a trade was likely to go down. And I think they were both kind of hanging around. How great would it be if Chris Bryant is also included in that deal to play center field? How great would that be? I mean, he's right-handed, but you want to talk about making a statement. Get Rizzo, Bryant, and Gallo within 24 hours. Doesn't help you when you're giving up 14 runs, I'll tell you that, but be fun to watch down the stretch. Today's game was not even really worth talking about, but I'll mention it. The Yankees were down 4-0. Obviously, Garrett Cole had a bad start. He got ripped in the first inning. And you got people coming on my channel and talking, they talk smack about him because he's had one bad outing. He's had a few bad outings this year, but the man has been really good all year. And you got people slamming him. The guy just dominated against Houston and Boston, and then he's had two not-so-good starts in a row, But he's spent a little bit, He's been trying to carry us on his back. So you're down 4-0, and you bring in Albert Abreu, and he throws gas on the fire. 4-0 would have been a nice spot for Luis Cessa if the Yankees hadn't dealt him, but I digress. Raid LOL says, now we need Trevor Story. That could be something that happens. I would keep your eye on it. Trevor Story, it would not shock me. I've been saying this all along. Luke Voit in Colorado next year as their DH hits 50 home runs. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't know if he'll do it as a first baseman with the Yankees because I don't know if he can stay healthy. But if you're just telling him to go up there and swing, you're playing at a higher altitude. Maybe it's, I don't know what the science behind this is. I know that the higher you get up, like the air is a little bit thinner. Maybe it's a little bit easier on the body. Maybe there's less gravity when you're a little bit higher up. I'm grasping at straws here because I want Luke Voit. I like Luke Voit, but I want to move him now that we got Rizzo. I want to move him for a more impact player because you can't have two big first basemen on this team. I mean, it just clogs up the roster. This means DJ LeMahieu is going to be playing second base, and this means that you're probably not going to get Story if Glaber's playing shortstop, unless you include Glaber in the deal. I mean, there's just a lot of weird moving parts for this. There's a lot of weird moving parts. Drum Master Bass says, what did the Cubs get back? Two prospects, Alcantara and Vizcaino. I think it's Jose Vizcaino is his name. I can't remember. Luis Vizcaino, maybe. John says, no need for Story. Yankees need pitching. Why not stop, why not get pitching and a little bit of offense? But this does clog up the infield. It's an interesting move. Anthony Rizzo is going to be a first baseman, unless you move Stanton, which I don't think is going to happen. So it's going to be Rizzo at first, and then you've probably got to play DJ at second. And then your shortstop's got to be Glaber. This puts Rougned Odor out of a job, and he's been one of your better left-handed bats. There's just a lot of weird moving parts for this. So my initial reaction is I like the deal. I like that we didn't give up a ton. We didn't spend any of our top prospects to get Anthony Rizzo. And I think Anthony Rizzo will be charged up by going back into a pennant race. This is not a big-time pennant race right now. I mean, the Yankees are shooting for the second wild card. They've had a really bad year. But you put him in there, it might energize him a little bit. You might see his numbers go up. And I think he's going to do damage hitting at Yankee Stadium. He's another one of those guys who's a big, strong dude. He doesn't have to get all of a pitch to get it over that right field wall. And we're not just talking about the 314 down the line. It's pretty short out there by that auxiliary scoreboard in front of the bleachers, those grandstands in front of the bleachers. It's maybe 350, 360. That is nothing for Anthony Rizzo. So I like this move. I think he's a great asset. He's also a good on-base percentage guy. 346 on-base percentage this year. Although his chase rate is a bit higher than we'd like. He's solid. He's not a burner on the base paths. He's in there to mash and play defense. I haven't seen him play defense in several years, but the only times I've watched him, he's been pretty good. So maybe somebody can look up his defensive stats in the and post it in the chat. But, looking at his exit velocities and things like that, I mean, he looks really good. His exit velocity this year, 91.1. That's above average. His max exit velocity is 114.2 miles an hour. He barrels up 9.4% of balls. So this is looking good. This is looking good. This is a nice pickup by Brian Cashman. We've seen him. We saw a picture of him out on a balcony. He looked like he was in like a white t-shirt that he'd been wearing for 3 days, covered in Cheeto dust, his belly hanging out. True physical specimen that he is, hanging out there in front of what looked like a meth house. On the deal, on the phone, making deals. So I appreciate this move by Brian Cashman. I think there's more moves to come. I would keep an eye on things. Trevor Squires Jr. says, congratulations, Yankees. You guys will love him. I agree. I think we are going to love him. Appreciate that.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Javier Carrillo says, what do you think about Jose Berrios? I think he would be a nice addition to the rotation. Again, it's going to depend on what it costs to get rid of him, or to get him, sorry. The Twins have said that their asking price is very high. Everything that I've read said that they're asking the world for him. The Mets obviously inquired about him, and they were kind of put off by the price. I read that they circled back, and there was still no lowering of the price, so that's probably not going to happen. We'll see. Hello Hi says, I'm sad. I'm a Cub fan. My favorite player is Anthony Rizzo. We'll take good care of him. I don't think that he's going to be a Yankee beyond this year. So we'll try and take good care of him, try and get him one more playoff appearance. Jonathan Vasquez says, is Berrios next? It's possible. Anything is next. Kyle Johnson says, Rizzo is in the 97th percentile of outs above average on Savant. Elite defensive first baseman. Let's hear it. And that's going to help out the Gleyber Torreses of the world because he can pick balls in the dirt. Do you guys remember the first couple of weeks of the season when the Yankees couldn't throw anybody out because they had Jay Bruce over there who'd never played first base regularly. And then they had, who else came up after him? I forget who came up after him. Mike Ford eventually took over and he was an actual first baseman. But for a while, for like a month, there was a million errors because because the first baseman couldn't pick a short hop. It was rough. Paulie Pastafazule, great name, says, I hope this doesn't turn into a Jack Clark era. I remember Jack Clark. Those were some rough times, my friend. I think that Aaron Gomez has a good question. He says, projected lineup. So let me just think about this now. That's a really good one. I'd probably go DJ leading off at second base, Judge batting second in right field, Gallo batting third in left field. I'd go Sanchez batting fourth behind the dish. I like his power potential, and when you sandwich him in between guys who you have to pitch to, I think he can be really tough. And then I got Rizzo batting fifth. And then I would go Stanton sixth, Urshela seventh, Gleyber Torres eighth. Who am I missing? And then Greg Allen maybe ninth in center field, unless the Yankees get somebody else for center field. And that's just my half asleep. I was taking a nap when this happened. That's the way I would do it off the top of my head. Sizzle says, is this confirmed? Yes, it is confirmed. Anthony Rizzo, a New York Yankee. Get ready. This next home series, you're going to be hearing John Sterling quite often.
That ball is high. It is far. It is gone.
Richard C. says, sensing a Moneyball-like streak coming. We'll see. It's hard to sense that after you get beat 14-0. It's really hard to do that after you get beat 14-0. But, congratulations to Anthony Rizzo on a great career in Chicago. Cubs fans should be proud of this guy. And remember, Rizzo was one of those guys. I think he originally came from the Cubs or the Padres. Like, Theo Epstein traded for him a couple of times. He's always been a really good player. And I'm just really looking forward to see. He looks good in pinstripes already. We've seen him in Cubs pinstripes. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Yankees pinstripes. I still think that we need more pitching, and Trevor Kest agrees with me. I would have liked to have gotten a starting pitcher by this point, but starting pitching is the most expensive asset out there. But I also don't want to discount the possibility that the Yankees call up some of their young arms. Luis Gil is doing really good. He just combined on a no-hitter in AAA. You've got Luis Severino coming back. I think he's going to project into the bullpen should you get to the playoffs because he's not stretched out. He really hasn't been a starter in a few years. You don't want to overtax him. You got Corey Kluber supposedly coming back in August, September. He throws a no-hitter, and then the next start, he pitches like an inning, and he was done, and we haven't seen him since. There's a lot of reasons to believe this pitching could get stronger. It's good to see that the Yankees are going out and getting veteran left-handed bats. And Anthony Rizzo is not an all-or-nothing guy. We've had a lot of all-or-nothing guys. There were a lot of complaints yesterday because the Yankees went out and traded for Joey Gallo, who is seen as an all-or-nothing guy. He's a three true outcomes guy. He strikes out, he walks, and he hits home runs. But what makes him different than most three true outcome guys like, Chris Davis or other guys, he's still really a really good defensive player. He's a good defensive outfielder. Although I think Davis was a pretty good first baseman, so maybe he's not a great example. But, Gallo gives you so much more. He's got a great arm. He's a fun guy. He's a personable guy. I think this could be the beginning of something fun as you mix some lefties into this lineup. Earl of Demise says the big Lewandowski, finally a decent lefty first baseman. Horrible loss today, though. I agree with you on the awful, and we're going to go with the Dono Chat. Dono Chat. Man and fiend alike. It's the Earl of Demise. Rays just traded Castillo, according to Ethan Cole. Where is Castillo going? That's interesting. Ethan says he wants Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell could be a decent pickup. I could see that. Teixeira was a switch hitter. Yeah, so we do have a true lefty for the first time in a while. We had Tino. We had Nick Johnson for a while. Nick Johnson was a prospect who never quite panned out. He had like Barry Bonds level walking ability in the minor leagues. I think in Double-A, he had a 545 on base percentage or something like that, some ridiculous number. And he walked all the time when he got to the big leagues. Eventually he got traded. And I think he was part of the Javier Vasquez deal, the original deal where he went to Montreal and Vasquez came back. And then eventually Nick Johnson ended up in Washington because Montreal moved to Washington. And then Nick Johnson came back to the Yankees. I think he hit one home run that one year and then got hurt. He was always hurt. He was made of balsa wood, but he was the lefty that I was looking forward to. Johan Garcia is asking the question that we're all asking. We talked about this early on in the live stream. What does this mean for Luke Voit? Luke Voit has been running the bases in Tampa. He's been doing baseball drills. I think Luke Voit's going to get traded. I really do. I think Luke Voit's going to go to a National League team because he can DH next year, and somebody's going to want to get a jump on getting Luke Voit on their roster. That's my prediction. That's my prediction for the night. Arianda says, we still have a chance to make at least the wild card. Yeah, the wild card is definitely within reach. A hot August and a hot September probably get you the wild card. And with Garrett Cole, despite his bad outing today, I like our chances in a wild card game. But adding to your offense, adding Joey Gallo, adding Anthony Rizzo, it adds a different element than this lineup has had all year when it's been predominantly right-handed. Now, we're still a lot of power hitters. Rizzo's not an all-or-nothing guy, but we're still a lot of power hitters. I think Adam Frazier was the guy to go get. I think Brian Cashman probably missed the boat a little bit on Frazier. I would have even traded a little bit more. He's a guy I would have included maybe a Luis Heel for, or maybe a Davy Garcia, who you're seeing now. I think Davy Garcia has kind of lost a little bit of, I guess, he's not elevated by the scouts as much as he used to be. His velocity was down last year, and this year his control seemed to have abandoned him in his only outings, and he hasn't even really been considered at the times that the Yankees needed a starter recently. Benjamin Williams, I thought that said Bernie Williams for a second, says Yankees need Brian Reynolds. He would be a good hitter. I've always liked Brian Reynolds too. Let's see. Kyle Johnson says Berrios should be our number one target. I hope the Twins like Voit. I could see that happening. I could see that move being done. The Twins have the luxury of taking their time to get Luke Voit healthy this year and then next year letting him DH because the Twins are not in it. So you just let Luke Voit kind of slowly come back into the lineup. Don't put too much pressure on him. And he fits their style of baseball. They've become a team that loves the home run. They set the major league record for home runs a couple of years ago. Dean DeNicola says Max Kepler now. Love that. Love that idea. Shinem Nanwandi says, do you think we get Ketel Marte? I don't. Because he's had some hamstring and some leg issues, and the price for him is still going to be astronomically high. Hey, we just hit 1,000 people in the chat. I appreciate that. Ricky Vigiani says John Gray out of Colorado. I could see John Gray, but I could see him as part of a Trevor Story package. I'm fairly certain, as somebody who's been watching this team for a long time, that Brian Cashman's not done. I think you're going to see something else tonight because you're not going to go into, well, I guess it'll happen before tomorrow's game, I think. But you're not going to go into it with Anthony Rizzo and Luke Voit. I mean, Luke Voit's coming back. He's not on the roster yet, but he's on his way back. You don't lose your job when you get injured. So the Yankees obviously feel like Anthony Rizzo is an upgrade from Luke Voit in the short term, at least. Luke Voit is going to be traded. He's been hurt, and we don't know about it. There's every possibility that he was running the bases in Tampa or whatever and tweaked something. Every possibility. We just haven't heard about that yet. But I personally think that he would be a great trade chip. There's a lot of teams that could use somebody with 40 home run potential at the DH position. Michael Rizzo says Cubs are paying the contract. I'm going to go ahead and assume that Michael Rizzo is related. Brave Reputation says he met Bernie Williams. Bernie is one of my all-time favorites. Hey, we got another super chat from the Earl of Demise. Send Stan to the moon along with Hicks And Wade. Appreciate the super chat. I think Wade's time is pretty much gone. I think with all these acquisitions, I don't think you can afford to keep him on the roster. You do have DJ who can move around and play some different positions, so he takes care of that versatility aspect of it. You have Florial now who can play the outfield. He's shown that he's major league ready. He's worked some good at-bats. Tyler Wade, you don't need him to play second base because you have Rougned Odor. I think the Yankees like Rougned Odor, like what he's giving them so far. So, yeah, I just don't see a spot for Tyler Wade. I think the roster when the Yankees go to Miami tomorrow is going to look much different than it looks even right now. You're going to have Joey Gallo in there. You're probably going to have Anthony Rizzo. It's about a 2-hour flight from Chicago to Florida, maybe 3, depending on what route the pilot decides. I'm going to make a right by Tennessee. So I just think the roster is going to look different tomorrow. Justin Gentile says Voit trade tonight, maybe. I think so. I really do. I think you're going to see him get dealt this evening. The Scatman says Yankees are already out on Story according to John Heyman. Okay, so that means they're probably going to stick with Gleyber Torres at shortstop. Okay? So that means DJ slides over to second, or DJ becomes your super utility guy, as he was originally signed to be. They might decide that he can play a little bit, on every day, play once a week, play every day in a different spot. Play third base one day, play second base one day, play first base one day, DH one day. That might be the route that they're deciding to go. But it's clear that Brian Cashman does not believe in the team as currently constructed to do very much. And why should he? They've been horrendous this year. Barely clinging to wild card hopes. That is not what we expected from this Yankees team. Thad Boy Mike says, I never liked Davy Garcia. He's extremely underdeveloped with almost no command. I would have liked him to be trade bait. So, first of all, thank you for the comment. His command was actually really good last year. That was his only plus asset on Baseball Savant, according to StatCast. He had really good control. But his velocity as a prospect was 93, 94, 95, 96. And last year it was mostly 91, 92 as a major leaguer. I think there's something going on. Trevor Kess says Yankees need Scherzer. Scherzer has been traded to the San Diego Padres. At least that's the last thing I heard. It was being finalized much the way that Joey Gallo was being finalized last night, where we didn't have the return for him, but it was pretty clear that Scherzer's going to the Padres. And the Padres are acting like the late 90s Yankees when they, would go out and get like the Raul Mondesi's, the Jose Cansecos. Later on, Bobby Abreu's. Like, Steinbrenner used to go out and get guys just to block other teams from getting him. This Rizzo move kind of feels like that because the Red Sox were heavily involved in talks with the Cubs to get Anthony Rizzo. Everything I had read was that he was going to the Boston Red Sox. It was pretty much a lock. Riley Moore says Rizzo is the Midnight Cowboy. We're going to have to get some Rizzo sounds, some Anthony Rizzo sounds in here. Darth Wacko says Wade to the minors. Yeah, I could see that happen. Eddie Blank says, what a lineup for the Yankees. It looks a lot different. I mean, it looks a lot different when you put Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo. Now you can go righty-lefty for a while, right? You can go Judge as righty at number 2. You can even hit Judge leadoff if you want to. I wouldn't do it because you lose RBI opportunities, and he's been your best RBI guy. I'd still hit DJ leadoff and then Judge second, although I wouldn't mind if you went DJ leadoff, Gallo second, Judge third, Rizzo fourth, and then so on. Sanchez, Urshela, Stanton, yada, yada. I'll tell you what, I would still like to see one more left-handed bat, but I do think that Greg Allen, as a switch hitter, fits nicely in center field. He's not a stud-type player. You don't need everybody to be superstars. I think that was a mistake the Yankees made coming into this season. You don't need everybody on the roster to be a superstar, right? Look at that late 90s dynasty. Last team to win 3 straight World Series. They had so many complementary players. Luis Sojo, Luis Vizcaino, or was it Jose Vizcaino? They had a Vizcaino. They had, Scott Brosius was not a superstar. He was a complimentary guy. He was clutch, played good defense, hit for a little power, wasn't much of a batting average guy. But, they had Homer Bush, stolen base guy who would come in and run the bases. They had Andy Fox, Mike Aldretti. Like, people forget about these forgotten names. That's a redundant, from the Department of Redundancy Department. People forget about these forgotten names. Darryl Strawberry was not an everyday player. He would come in and play for a couple weeks at a time. He would DH sometimes, but he was a powerful bat off the bench. Just having him be able to come up and pinch hit changed the tenor of the game. It changed the way that opposing managers would work the Yankees. Ethan says, do you think Rizzo will be in Miami tomorrow? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes.
Riley Moore says, we need starting pitching. I agree with you 100% on that one. Anthony Pupo Gijo says, we got to give Brian Cashman some credit. Well, I mean, do you give him credit for cleaning up a mess that he made? He built this all right-handed roster. If my wife comes home from work and I work at home all day and I decide I'm going to make a meal and I destroy the kitchen and I set the curtains on fire and I break the stove, do I get credit when I fixed it? Does she say, Derek, you did such a great job? No, she says, you broke the kitchen. You burnt the curtains. So, hey, look, he gets credit for making an attempt. We'll see how it works out. People are calling for Bauer. I'm going to go ahead and echo El Fuego says, Bauer's a big no-no. Bauer's a big no-no. Lynn Wellen says, give us back our Rizzo. No chance. Let's see here. A lot of people saying, what's the possible lineup? We've gone through it a few times, but I think you're going to go righty-lefty, righty-lefty. It's a good chance for the Yankees to split up the righties that have been dominating their lineup all season. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to hop on here and do a quick chat. But I'm liking the way this is looking right now. I do think that there's more moves coming, and if and when those moves happen, I will be back. So until then, I'll see you next time.